Welcome to the Horsepower Survey's online reporting interface. This 10-minute tutorial will introduce you to the Horsepower Survey, the world's first survey based on neuroeconomic principles. This tutorial plays automatically the first time you log in to view your survey results, but it's optional thereafter. It is harmful and wrong-headed for us to ignore our pleasure-driven nature. In my book, Primal Management, I describe 5 forms of pleasure that nature built into our brains to encourage us to invent, master the survival skills of our tribe, achieve goals, work as part of a tightly bonded team, and feel safe and secure. The Horsepower Survey captures these rewarding feelings and summarizes them as motivational horsepower, or how rewarded your employees feel at work. The horsepower for the current survey is shown on the large dial at the center of your management dashboard. If the dial is in the positive range, it means that your employees enjoy coming to work and that they receive an intrinsic reward bonus that contributes to their motivation and productivity. If the dial is in the negative range, it means that your employees find it painful coming to work, which indicates a serious motivational malfunction. If the horsepower is negative, a check engine light will be illuminated at the center of the main dial. If this occurs, go to the Tune-Up Tips tab to find suggestions for improving your motivational horsepower. The side gauges measure the individual productive pleasures that contribute to overall horsepower. You can think of these as the individual cylinders that power the motivational engine. As with the main gauge, a positive score indicates pleasure and a negative score indicates pain. Negative scores trigger the check engine light to turn on. If you would like to navigate backward or forward in time, just click on the navigation arrows toward the bottom of the dashboard. The final gauge indicates participation level of the current survey. Participation rates over 80% are ideal. The dashboard view is designed to give managers a quick visual readout of the current survey data. In addition to the dashboard view, there are a variety of other resources that can be accessed by the tabs along the top of the screen. Now let's take a closer look at each of the tabs, starting with the Metrics tab. The Metrics tab contains graphs that allow you to analyze your survey results and see how your results compare to international benchmarks and to your organization as a whole. The Horsepower Metric tab shows overall motivation as a function of time. The Tune-Up Metric tab displays the current status of the 6 employee engagement drivers. The Talent Retention tab shows how many employees enjoy their work and are likely to stay, and how many dislike their work and are likely to leave. The Participation tab, as the name implies, shows participation rates as a function of time. And finally, the Comments tab displays your employees' suggestions for improving the workplace. By default, the software will initially display just the data for your particular department. You can display additional data by clicking on the Structure menu in the left-hand panel. In this example, we are the manager of the Finance Department, as indicated by the check mark in the Structure menu. If you'd like to compare your department's performance to the company as a whole, or to an industry benchmark, check these boxes. Now click on the Refresh button to view an updated graph. The Finance Department is now represented by a yellow line. The overall organization is represented by a red line. And the benchmark for all companies using the Horsepower Survey is represented by a horizontal orange line. The Rounds menu allows you to select which survey rounds you want to plot. Finally, the Aggregate button is pertinent if you are responsible for more than one department and want to combine their results. The first sub-tab under the Metrics tab is the Horsepower Metric. This graph provides the same data as the main dashboard dial, but in a format that allows for data analysis. The horsepower metric depicts the single most important parameter a company can measure, which is why I call it the master metric that drives everything else. If we can get this critical parameter to go up, then every other desirable financial, operational, and HR metric should go up with it. The logic behind this bold statement is simple. Motivation is a general, energizing force that causes everyone from the janitor to the CEO to do their jobs faster, better, and smarter. If we can get this propulsive force to go up, everything else should go up with it. The second tab is labeled the tune-up metric. As the name implies, this metric can be used to diagnose which motivational cylinders are firing and which are misfiring. The tune-up metric provides the same information as the side gauges on the dashboard, but in a format that allows for data analysis. The motivational cylinders represent the 5 productive drives that all human beings share, plus 1 additional cylinder representing stress. If these drives are satisfied, employees experience pleasure, and the bars will be in the green zone. If these drives are frustrated, employees experience pain, and the bars will be in the red zone. Bars in the red zone are equivalent to a deduction in monetary salary. Bars in the green zone are equivalent to a monetary bonus that contributes to motivation and productivity. The third tab is labeled the talent retention metric. All of the metrics presented thus far show average data for the entire work group. The talent retention metric is the single exception. This metric shows how rewarded each individual employee feels, but anonymously, of course. This frequency histogram is broken into 4 turnover risk zones. High turnover risk. These employees find it very painful coming to work. Whatever pleasure they derive from their paychecks is negated by their displeasure with work. Employees in this category are not going to hang around long because they experience work as a losing proposition. Moderate turnover risk. These employees find it moderately painful coming to work, but they may stick around in order to collect their monetary paychecks. Moderately low turnover risk. These employees get intrinsic pleasure from their work that contributes to their motivation and productivity. Very low turnover risk. These employees find passion and purpose in their work. If they were independently wealthy, they would come to work just for the enjoyment of it. This example shows a work group with a moderate turnover risk. As you can see, most of the employees collect an intrinsic reward bonus on top of their monetary paycheck that contributes to their motivation and productivity. The fourth tab is labeled Participation. This graph displays participation rates as a function of time. If you notice a downward trend in participation, it's time to reintroduce the survey and emphasize its role in maintaining a rewarding and mentally healthy workplace. The fifth tab is labeled Comments and displays employee suggestions for improving the workplace. The comments shown are for your particular work group. In this example, we are the manager of the sales department. By default, the software displays all of the comments for this department, even from past survey rounds. If you want to retain your best employees, start thinking about them as your internal customers and act on their improvement suggestions immediately. We have finished exploring the Metrics tab and the 5 sub-tabs underneath it. There are only 2 more resources left to explore: the Tune-Up Tips tab and the Coaching tab. The User Configuration tab allows users to change their passwords, and it is self-explanatory. The Tune-Up Tips tab, as already mentioned, contains leadership development resources for improving your horsepower scores. If you'd like to take a deeper dive into this feature, please watch the Tune-Up Tips tutorial. There are 2 menus under the Tune-Up Tips tab: Primal Management Tips and Custom Tips. Clicking on the Primal Management Tips reveals a listing of the 5 motivational drives plus stress. Let's imagine for a second that our work group is scoring low for cooperation. In this case, clicking on the Cooperation drive reveals 3 resources for improving cooperation at work. An action plan that we can implement right away to improve cooperation. A chapter from my book, Primal Management, with tips for improving cooperation. And finally, recommended readings from respected thought leaders on this topic. Better yet, try your own insights for tapping into the passion and energy of your people. We just reviewed the Primal Management tips. Now let's check out the Custom Tips menu, which provides general resources for improving workplace motivation. These tips are not sorted by which motivational drives they pertain to. For example, the custom tips shown here are leadership development videos describing how to press all of the motivational hot buttons. By the way, your company may decide to post its own leadership tips under the Custom Tips menu. Working harmoniously with human nature not only makes common sense, it also creates a hopeful future where everybody wins. Employees win because their work becomes more intrinsically rewarding. Managers win because the company becomes more profitable, productive, and innovative. Customers win because they get better goods and services from people with a good attitude. And shareholders win because they make money. Remind me again, why don't we do this? In summary, emotions and feelings are not soft and irrelevant. Rather, they constitute an engineered incentive system that lies at the core of human nature, the core of customer and employee satisfaction, the core of economic decision-making, and the core of sustained financial performance. It's time for us to wake up and begin to understand, measure, and manage these vital propulsive forces in the workplace. The Horsepower Survey will get us started.